For our employers in the lobby, if y'all can scan the QR code and just fill out a few quick survey questions, we'll get started in a few minutes as more people are joining the lobby. In just a few minutes after, so I think we're going to go ahead and get started and let folks come in as they join. But I want to welcome everyone to our third Recruit XU session today, engaging with today's Xavier student panel. My name is Alex Best. I'm one of our assistant directors. For folks that may have joined in a little after I said this, if you can scan the QR code and get this pre-survey done, we really would appreciate the data and the feedback. So with that being said, I want to introduce you all to today's panelists. If the screen will go, there we go. So I'm gonna have our students introduce themselves. We are missing Sophie right now, so hopefully she will join at some point. But we do have four of our wonderful panelists here with us. So I'm gonna let Tara introduce herself and then we'll go down the line.
Hi, my name is Nasir Rabin. I'm a senior at Xavier. I major in psychology and I minor in deaf studies.
Hi, I'm Maddie. I'm a senior at Xavier and I'm a double major in French and International Studies with a concentration in international business.
Hello, everyone. My name is Ian Gaio. I am currently a junior double majoring in business analytics and information systems, as well as minoring in Spanish.
Hey guys, I'm Matt Nipper. I'm a first year at Xavier, and I am currently business undecided, hoping to go into the marketing field.
I cannot again thank these students for giving up part of their fall break for coming and speaking with us today. I hope you all get some great insights, but I did want to kind of give you all a sense of the format of the panel. So I will have initial questions for the students. They will answer in a round robin format, so kind of just down the line that we just did. If you all have any questions as you know the students are talking, please type them in the chat. If it's really critical, then we will add that in or clarify some things if we need to. After initial questions are asked, there will be a time where you, the employers, can either unmute to ask further questions or you can type in the chat. We have Valerie Jacobson, Nadia Logan, as well as a couple other of the career development team monitoring the chat. For employers, please remain muted during the initial questions, and for everyone else, as long as we're not, please be muted as if you're speaking or not. So if you're not speaking, please stay muted just to reduce noise. But with that being said, I think we're ready to go on to our first question. So what, for the students, what are you all looking for in potential employers?
So for a potential employer, I'm looking for an employer who values their employees as both employees and as human beings. someone who promotes a positive work environment and offers opportunities for career development.
For me, I would definitely be searching for someone that our values and interests align, along with they promote a very open and diverse work environment for myself that will give me opportunities to grow, along with being able to do individual and group projects.
For me, there's three different things that I look at for a potential employer. The first one is resources, and this is not to get confused with benefits. I believe if a company offers a substantial amount of resources, such as career services, resource groups, that's definitely a positive when I look at it. The second one is community involvement. When a employer shows that they're involved in the community and they care more than just their job, it really speaks a lot to me, being from a Catholic background, also going to a Catholic grade school and university. And the third one is definitely diversity and inclusion, which ties into work environment. So if they foster a welcoming environment where they include all voices, that to me speaks volumes.
Some of the things I'd look for in a potential employer, one, of course, always health benefits. I'm actually a veteran of the U.S. Navy, so getting out, that's a big thing for me. No one's said salary yet, so of course I'm going to say salary. But just comfortability in the work environment, like Dale said, inclusion, and definitely having the resources and hopefully having a good team to help support and get the job done.
Awesome. So there's been a lot of opportunities for students to engage with employers. So have you, during your time at Xavier, engaged with our employers? And if you have, what did you like or dislike about these experiences? And if you haven't engaged with employers since your time at Xavier, what maybe, be some reasons that you may be hesitant to engage with an employer or just felt like it wasn't a good opportunity for you?
So I haven't attended any of the in-person activities that Xavier has for employers, but I mainly interacted with employers through the handshake. And I liked it because it's convenient to be able to search for multiple job opportunities, similar to LinkedIn or other job searching engines. But I dislike it because it's hard to fully engage and show your personality through text or email.
The only engagement I've had with employers so far has been through job fairs. And I did enjoy those because it gave me opportunities to explore different companies and opportunities and hear kind of what opportunities available for me in my career field. I was also able to sign up for one-on-one times, but with that, it was something I kind of disliked because it was through a chat feature. If it was possible through kind of like a video call conference, I would have definitely preferred that more. But other than that, it was a good experience.
As a junior, I'm actually in the process right now of searching for internships. And when looking at employers or when engaging with employers, I've mostly used Handshake and LinkedIn. But when communicating with employers, one thing that I've noticed is that I know it's different among different companies, but when you get an automatic email and it just says, sorry, we're not going through your application. And to me, I mean, I understand why that might be, but it's really I prefer just to meet with someone and get it that interview, just to meet with that person and get that one-on-one relationship, because to me, it's really easy. I understand they probably get a huge amount of interviewers and they're just trying to pick the best prospects. But to me, I really look at how does this company interact with their interns. And for me, a really good example that what I've enjoyed a lot is when a company assigns you a person and then that person's your main contact. So the people conducting the interviews are different from this main source of contact. So to me, it speaks that I'm actually have a reliable source to go to if I have any specific questions. And it really, I'm developing a relationship with this person who works at this company. So it makes me want to feel like I want to even work more for that company. and in compared to like just getting an automatic email saying, sorry, your interview is not being selected. And I think it shows a lot that they do care about the people taking the time to fill out the application to be interviewed. So to me, like building that personal relationship is what I really look forward to and what I've enjoyed so far when engaging with employers.
Being a first year, I don't really have that much experience in engaging with employers at Xavier. I do know that we do have several resources, which I am going to be looking into. From fellow students that I've talked to at the business school, I know that they have the Meet the Firms. I've heard great things about that, as well as the Career Center. I mean, my girlfriend is actually a Xavier graduate, and Xavier is the one that helped her get her job. She works here in downtown Cincinnati. And also our Veteran Center at Xavier. Those guys have a lot of resources and a lot of connections to help the students. So I look forward to using those resources.
Probably on you, but it's really when you're presenting. So I think we heard a little bit more about this, but I would love for you all to elaborate on your preference to engage with employers virtually or in person, and just giving a little bit more context about that.
So I feel like I have pros and cons with both. Virtually, specifically on Zoom, I feel more comfortable because I'm in in a setting that I prefer to be in, which plays a big role in being able to be comfortable in my own shoes and having that contact over Zoom. But the issue what I don't like about it is that you're not able to like get those nonverbal cues that you would get if you were in person, and that body language shift and things like that. So it kind of is like a setback versus being in person, when you would have to like drive to the actual place to meet, and you will be able to get those cues, but you're not necessarily in a setting that you might prefer to be in. So I personally prefer Zoom, engaging with employers through Zoom.
I definitely prefer in-person interactions. I find it easier to make that kind of like one-on-one connection. You can read the body language. I personally just find it a lot easier and for me to be helpful to do it in person. I think Zoom or through virtual is nice if you're interacting with anyone that's in a different state or location. Schedule-wise, it's easier to align something through Zoom or virtual, but I definitely prefer in person.
It definitely depends on the situation. Like, for instance, I know Maddie's mentioned if it's in a different state, I don't have a problem with at all attending a informational session via Zoom. But if the person's visiting campus or is within the Cincinnati area, I do prefer to be in person, just so I can, like I said, like I mentioned earlier, to build that one-on relationship with the employer.
So in my past experience, I have some experience before attending Xavier. I've always been a very, I've preferred in person. Again, going off of what Maddie said, I understand that, sometimes you have an interview in a different state and it is convenient to come across Zoom or be virtual. But with an in-person interview or engagement, it's better that you can, read their body language, look for professionalism. I've always held myself to pretty professional standards. So being in person, I feel like you get a better experience and you get to know that person better just off of their body language.
I think this might be the last one before we turn it over to the employers themselves. But what advice or recommendations would you all have for employers to build brand awareness of their organizations and what opportunities they may be offering, whether that be internships or jobs?
For me, since I use Handshake, I think Handshake is a really good way to reach out to Xavier students. I've been personally reached out to like through the message portion of Handshake, and I think that's how I've gotten most of my awareness of job opportunities. And also coming to campus outside of job events helps build awareness specifically to the company or organization.
Handshake and LinkedIn are definitely great resources to use. I would also recommend trying to reach out to any faculty or professors in specific departments that your area is related to. I've had a lot of great opportunities through my classes to do service learning projects, which has helped connect me with different companies and organizations. And I've learned a lot from them. So I would definitely recommend trying to build some sort of relationship with professors here.
I would definitely add to that. LinkedIn Handshake, I've definitely used that the most when searching for internships and potential employers. Also, reaching out to the career development office is definitely something I would stress, because sometimes from my career coaches, I would receive emails like, hey, check out this internship for analytics in your area or in different parts of the United States. And another thing I do recommend is definitely having employers like set up a table, right? Like in the lobby of the being a business student in the lobby of the business school. And I like, sometimes I don't even know that they're there, and I just go and just start talking to them, seeing what potential internships that they offer. Even like Maddie mentioned, contacting the head of a specific department and getting into classes and just talking for 5 or 10 minutes about where you're from and the potential career outlooks that you offer for the students.
So in my personal experience, LinkedIn and Handshake, again, I know that a lot of people are using that. And I have a lot of Xavier grads in my family as well, who actually got their jobs through faculty at Xavier. So another great resource, just talking to faculty, building that network. And then again, the Career Development Center, that's a great resource as well. And then again, like Ian said, I do agree with the setting up a table in the business school. I know I've seen a few this year so far, and just talking to them, it builds a great network and the ability to look for those internships and jobs.
Thank you all so much. I do see that there was one question in the chat from Katie. And Katie, in terms of the second part of your question, if you reach out to anyone from our team, but Nadia Logan, who is the lead of our employer relations team, she could connect you with the career coach at liaisons for those areas. And I think we'd be happy to connect you with some faculty in those areas for sure. But for our panelists, do you all use Indeed, or is that more so something that you don't use when looking for internships or jobs?
I still use Indeed. I would say I use Indeed and Handshake more than I use LinkedIn for job search, personally.
I haven't really had much experience with Indeed. A lot of my professors that I talk with would always recommend things through Handshake or connecting through LinkedIn. So that's where mainly my experiences are with.
Yeah, my main experience is with Handshake and LinkedIn. I haven't used Indeed at all.
I still use Indeed a lot. LinkedIn and Indeed are my top two that I use to look for jobs. I just think it's a great, it's almost like LinkedIn, but great to find a job on there.
As people are thinking of questions, I know one that I wanted to ask you all after hearing some of your responses is how does social media, play in your awareness of job opportunities or with employers, or how could social media be a way that employers reach out and connect with you all, or let you all know about opportunities they offer?
I think social media plays a huge part, especially in this day and age when we're on our phones constantly. I'm on Instagram and I see a lot of information about the Xavier newsletter and Xavier organizations, and sometimes internship opportunities in the psychology department. And so I feel like one of my greatest awarenesses of job opportunities or opportunities in general is through Instagram specifically.
I think social media is definitely a huge tool that I find myself passively using to just find internships and different opportunities. I'm on TikTok a lot, and I'll just be scrolling through and I will see a bunch of different TikToks about videos about internships in my area and different job opportunities that my profession could lead to. So social media is definitely a huge help.
I would say that I've only used social media for internships, so specifically Handshake and LinkedIn. Sometimes I just check every day on LinkedIn saying what kind of internship opportunities are there in Cincinnati area, or even back at home where I'm from. I'm from Chicago, so definitely LinkedIn, and I do sometimes use Handshake as well, is a good resource to get students aware of the company you work for and the potential internship opportunities.
I think social media definitely is a great resource. I know that a lot of times I see advertisements on Facebook looking for summer internships, just paid internships. Sometimes I've actually found a lot of interesting opportunities on social media. And again, like Tara said, in this day and age, it's just impossible to not use social media for that kind of stuff.
Awesome. So Jordan had a question or a couple questions about presentations through student organizations. So if an employer wanted to get involved with student orders, what would be the best way to do that? And if they came into a meeting that you're in, would you all rather hear about, presentations about, the company and making a connection, or something career development wise, like, resumes or mock interviews? Like, what would you find more beneficial if an employer were to come in with a student?
I would find both beneficial in different ways. If a company was to come to, like, for example, like the psychology club and talk about their company and specifically trying to recruit people, it would be more of my goal to create a more personal relationship with them and converse more, versus going to like a workshop where I'm there to like work on a resume that may just be a draft and not necessarily prepared to show like a potential employer.
I think having a mix of both would be really beneficial. Doing a small presentation, just an overview of your company and your values, and then following up with a sort of activity related to your company, just so students can get an idea of like what you might do on a day-to-day basis.
Definitely reach out to the presidents of these student organizations, and definitely have it like an informational session, kind of where you just talk about the company and what you're looking for interns, and then have it optional where you could have these workshops, these mock interviews, things like that. Just not, I wouldn't say it's the same day, but have it within like the next week, so that students can get, if they want to get involved with that specific company or organization, then they can.
I think reaching out to the presidents of the different organizations, that's a great idea. When meeting with some of the organizations, I think it would be good to learn about a company's history as well as what they can offer to potential employees. And again, like Ian said, with the workshops, I wouldn't make it a requirement, but kind of if you can choose to go to it or not.
If I can just jump in really quickly, for any of our employers on the call who would like to engage with student organizations at Xavier, if you reach out to our employer relations team, I'll plug the email address into the chat, but it's just employer@xavier.edu. We can get you connected with the many student organizations on campus, and there's an easy way to engage with presidents, vice presidents, and advisors from their directory. So feel free to reach out at any time.
Thank you, Valerie. Looks like someone asked a question. Are you part of any like social media groups on Facebook or Instagram that bring job opportunities to the forefront?
I follow like Snagajob and like some of the student organizations on campus. And with me being a senior, they kind of start posting more job opportunities because they know that like I'm at the point where I'm in the market for it.
I do not. I find a lot of my opportunities on Handshake or through my professors. They have normally a lot of recommendations for me. So
I do not use Facebook or Instagram at all for job opportunities, unless it's through some of these student organizations' Instagram pages. But definitely through the events tab on Handshake is where I've noticed some potential like workshops that employers have. And also, like I mentioned earlier, LinkedIn, I probably use LinkedIn the most, but I do still use Handshake as well.
I actually followed quite a few groups on Facebook for veteran jobs. that has been a huge help when they'll post potential opportunities and things like that on Instagram. I've also found a couple groups that just kind of bounce ideas off of each other, and I know that sometimes we can get companies in there and kind of give a history and benefits and things like that. So I think that's a great resource.
Caught up on questions, but feel free to keep thinking, y'all. Or if you have any questions in the chat, or if you want to unmute and ask them, you can do that as well.
One follow-up I thought I might plug in. There's been a lot of discussion about social media already in our time together. I'm curious if the panelists could share what their preferred platforms are. Where do you spend the majority of your time?
I would say I spend like majority of my time on Instagram.
For me, I find myself using TikTok and Instagram pretty often.
I would say Instagram and TikTok.
For me, it's definitely Facebook and Instagram.
Yeah, there's gotta be more questions out there, so I hope people are typing and thinking. I think of like other.
Hi, how are you? This is Katie from Envision.
How's it going, Katie?
Hi, it is going. I just wanted to pop in. I've been noticing just a trend lately of when people apply to a job, sometimes they don't have matching credentials. So I'm wondering, what draws you to apply for a job? Like if you see something on LinkedIn or Indeed or Handshake, what is it about that posting attracts you the most and has you actually hit apply?
In my experience, I have been recommended like certain positions, like, oh, this position matches your what's on your resume pretty perfectly. So sometimes I'll just click apply, or if I see that they offer some things that I am looking for, like the area, the salary, and things like that. Or if it says like, oh, we're looking specifically for Xavier psychology students, then I may kind of overlook some of the job requirements and just kind of go for it and apply.
I have definitely applied for some positions that where either like my major or my school year doesn't exactly match up with what the company is searching for. If I do apply, I just find myself either really being interested in that company after doing some research on them, or I feel that the position I'm applying for is something that I'm very interested in and would like to get more experience in.
I definitely look at the job description a lot because being a business analytics and information systems student, I use programs such as MySQL, Excel, Tableau, R, and Python. And if the job description matches like using programs in order to assess situations in an analytical, like problem solving way, then that's something that I'm drawn to. And being able to work either independently or on a team, it really doesn't matter, but having those options of being able to work in a team or independently with the supervisor these are the kind of things that I look at. Definitely, how does my major apply to the job description? So obviously I'm not going to be applying for a marketing position because I'm not a marketing major, but if I'm able to find a position where it might not be phrased data analytics, but it's phrased something differently, but it still utilizes these types of programs and these types of problem solving, then that's kind of something that I look at, that I'm drawn to, where I want to apply instead of just like skipping it over.
I know that there have been times where I've hit the instant apply button on Indeed. So that was one of the downfalls. It didn't look at the job description all the way. But more and more I've been, looking at the job description, just finding some of the big things I look for is just team building, working with a team, having good supervisors, things like that. With the background I have previously, I know that sometimes I'll apply for a job if I have some of the skills required, not all of the skills, because in my experience, a lot of the skills that you learn in the professional world are learned on the job. You can't learn everything in college. So that's definitely how I do it.
Actually was kind of thinking, and I wanted to go back to some talk earlier about diversity, equity, inclusion in the workplace. Like, what of that I think is a value? Like, I'm trying to think like how like what communicates like to you all, like what makes you feel like okay, like a company like actually values diversity and inclusion, if that's a value of yours. Like what can an employer do to communicate that to you so you have that shared value with them?
Like specifically like meeting in person, like at a job, or at a career fair or something, seeing a diverse group of people being sent out to recruit other people is my first indicator that they value a diverse work environment. Yeah.
Definitely being able to see the type of people that they employ and who they send out to represent them, I think is a big factor in that, as well as asking if they recognize other holidays that aren't seen kind of like as traditional in the US, if they represent like other cultures like that.
I fully agree with what Tara said. Like being an intern in the internship process right now, like I'm not going to name the company or anything like that, but when I meet 8 different people from the same company and they all are like the same kind of person, that kind of doesn't speak. It doesn't really tell me a lot about the companies when they say they promote diversity and inclusion, because they're only having this one perspective. Like they don't have different types of perspectives and cultures involved in their work environment. And definitely, like, I'm not sure if the employer can do this, but when speaking at informational sessions, like seeing how these people like react to this type of question, like seeing like obviously if they have different people from different backgrounds, that's definitely a good start. But how I answer that question and how they respond, like how their responses could tell a lot on like if they value their company that they work for, or if they've had any situations where they have negative experiences. So definitely I've like that's like one of the question I always talk about, because that's something that I'm always worried about. But as long as they like show a diverse group of people with diverse responses, then that you're in a good situation, you're in a good way.
When speaking about diversity and inclusion, in terms of inclusion for me, it's veteran hires. There's a lot of predatory veteran hires that only hire us for the fact that we follow orders. I definitely think that, and I'm not going to say this for all people in the military, a lot of us have leadership positions, leadership experience. And I know, of course, coming into the professional world, you're not going to get a leadership position right away. And when it comes to inclusion, just having a team of, like Ian said, diverse people, being able to bounce different ideas off of, different backgrounds and cultures is definitely important, because that's how you include all of your customer base or your market as well.
Follow-up question to this, and talking about culture and like a larger stance. When you're looking at like an employer's culture, is that something that you all look for based on clues like a job description, or if you see a job description, you want to research them? Like, do you do that before you even apply for the position, or is that something that you say for when you're interviewing with them and kind of get to learn in the moment, or maybe ask them when you're at the interview process?
So for me, I would say both. When I see something that indicates that they value diversity and inclusion, or sometimes I've seen that them literally like say that they want like a diverse group, or they value that, then I think that's a +1 for me. But it's also the other half would be when I go into the interview and I get to see the work environment, so I can see if that was just the talk that they wanted, because like the culture now is that, you know, everybody wants to be diverse, if they're just trying to get more people in, or if they already like have a diverse group of people, or try, like you get to see that once you walk into the interview and you see the people that are already working there.
I do a little bit of research beforehand. I try to look at their mission statement and if they talk about having diversity in their description, along with what kind of photos they might have uploaded to their company website. And then also when I go in for an interview or to see the workplace, who's working, the kind of people I interact with on just a typical like job level versus who would be above me if I did get that position.
I definitely look at both the job description and during interviews, especially when looking at the job description. I do like initial research on the company and seeing if they provide resources for people of color, and then once I segue into the interviews, the phone interviews or in-person interviews, then I ask the question like, have you seen diversity and inclusion incorporated in the work environment? Can you talk about the work environment? And like I mentioned earlier, if there's only one group of people out of like, if there's 8 people and they're all kind of like branched into the same category, then you're not really getting that diverse dialogue at all. So that's kind of something that I've noticed.
And the topic of diversity, when I'm looking at a job description, I definitely look for those clues. One thing I definitely do is before applying for a company, or if I'm approached by a company, I'll do my own research, and I'll look at employee testimonials, reviews, things like that, to just make sure that their mission statements and things like that are backed up, because I know that everybody puts on a good face sometimes, but it's got to be backed up by personal experience.
Awesome. Okay. Trying to think of other things to maybe ask. So we talked about a bit about, like on campus, like presence, um, and like how, like tabling could be a really great way for students to see employers. Are there any kind of like areas of campus that you think would be a benefit if they're trying to, get to, specific areas that you all study in, or like where are students going to be at that employers easily to be able to be seen by students?
Absolutely. So we talked about employers going to the business school to recruit like business students, but I think it's important if you're trying to recruit students from other aspects. For me, like we talked about fields of mental health, social workers, and education. You could go to the Elliott building, which is a building for psychologists, so you would get a higher market of people in those fields, or the other buildings that are associated to the audience that you're looking for.
I believe as well having a table or some representatives in Alter, since Alter Hall, that is a very like key spot in campus. A lot of students have classes there. You'll meet a lot of different majors. It's definitely a good way to like connect with a very diverse group of students, since everyone goes that way, along with kind of around Bellarmine Circle, since that's also like right there in campus. Students walk by there all the time. It's a very key location as well.
Yeah, just to add to what Maddie said, like Alter is like we can meet a lot of basically all are the majors here at Xavier. But if you want to really cater to a specific major, definitely just reach out to the dean of that college and just say, hey, I want to put up an informational session or an event for the students in this specific major and that specific major. Definitely reach out, like I mentioned earlier, to the career development office, because they do work with a lot of the students in terms of reaching out and getting resources and also searching for internships. And also, like we mentioned earlier as well, presidents and vice presidents of different organizations, if you're looking for specific skills or type of person, then definitely reach out. So those 3 things I would say are the best ways.
Two of the places I definitely, see a lot of traffic and people would be Gallagher. Outside of Gallagher, I know that a lot of clubs have had their tables right outside the front of Gallagher, and it's definitely caught my attention when going to get food or going to the All for One shop. And then the CLC, I know that a lot of guys or a lot of different students, a lot of the people from the vet center, we walk through there all the time. I know that a lot of those people are looking for jobs, and that's definitely where they're going to see a lot of potential.
Thank you all for that. I just wanted to give some context for our employers that maybe haven't visited campus or haven't visited campus. But for our employers in the chat, and as Valerie just put into the chat box, you can request tabling as an event on Handshake, and the employer relations team will be happy to get a space for you, and they can help you kind of figure out, what would make sense for you and your company. And I saw that someone had to leave, but mentioned a recording. There will be a recording of this sent out to the employers afterwards so they can see that. And thank you again, Valerie, for linking that on how to request an event Handshake for our employers. I know we've talked a lot about social media, but I just kind of want to talk about, what kind of grabs your all's attention in general? Like, what are ways that through marketing, like what really kind of grabs your attention to really like look at something, whether it's a job posting or just something in general?
In general, like something that would grab my attention is I always like to see funny like things on Instagram. Sometimes I've even seen like clubs or internship opportunities the other day actually, which was like a meme. And it was kind of funny because it also shows the personality of the person trying to employ the students. So I really like that.
For me, I would say definitely like keywords of my interest, such as like languages, foreign affairs, as well as keeping the information kind of short. If I'm on social media scrolling through, I'm not going to want to read something that's super long, full of information. Definitely making sure you have like the highlights of it front and center, and like that's the focus of it.
Definitely how my major can apply to the position that they're finding interns for. But then also another thing too is like what Tara mentioned, like making it fun, because I did have to do an interview, which was by myself recording. And at the end of the interview, they said like, congrats, you're all done. And they had different people like talking about their experiences being an intern. And I just thought that made it more personal, and like piggybacking on what I said earlier, like making that personal connection, making it fun is something like it makes me drawn even more towards the company and makes me want to even work more for the company. So just making it fun and relaxing is definitely what I would say.
I definitely look for, I know it sounds kind of old fashioned, but the achievements of the company and how they can give back to society. That's definitely a big thing that I look for in an employer, is how they give back to society and how they can help a community. So when I see postings that involve fundraising or different ways that their products possibly help someone, I definitely am drawn to that.
Had to press the unmute button like 3 times. I knew there was a little bit of mention earlier about benefits. So what are some things that you all would look for as like benefits aside from salary in either like an internship or a full-time position, like things like flexibility, remote work? Like what would be some things that would really attract you to a company besides, what they pay?
So for me, flexibility is one of the main attractors because I am a parent. And so that's something that I have to work around. Also, having the opportunity to go to have a 401k and to have like the money that I put in match the money that's already there. I think that, and then insurance as well. Those are my top 3.
I would say probably the ability to travel or relocate to different locations would be a big thing for me, as well as flexibility possibly with my schedule, since I live with my grandmother, and so I kind of help take care of her, so that's important to me. And as Tara mentioned, 401k, health benefits, things like that.
So everything that was mentioned, but then also like some type of mentorship or some guidance, just because my family does not have any type of background that I'm studying right now. And that even includes my extended family as well. So some type of guidance and mentorship, like I mentioned, the resources, career services resources that they offer for their employees. And like I said, 401k, health benefits, things like that also are very important, and flexibility.
Kind of go off of what Tara said. I'm a caretaker. I'm not a parent, but I'm a caretaker. So flexibility is definitely important to me, as well as a good retirement or 401k, something like that. And the resources are definitely important. If you don't have good resources, then it makes your job harder. And if a company can provide good resources and good benefits to an employee and give them incentive to work harder, that is definitely a positive.
Wow. I'm just remembering conversations that we had towards when I was starting and thinking about like our career fairs. So, typically we'll have, one big career fair each semester, and then we might have, some faculty sponsored ones for specific majors or specific industries. So I just wanted to get to know which would you be more likely to attend a career fair, whether it was virtual or in person, if it was focused on, your area of study, or if it was general, but you knew you had opportunities that would be relevant to you and your major.
I would be more comfortable going to a career fair tailored to my major because I know their target audience. But going to a career fair for a well-rounded amount of like different fields will help me broaden my idea of what I want to do after I graduate, and what type of careers may not necessarily say for psychology students or mental health care, but I will be able to apply the skills that I've developed to that position really well.
I would say probably one that's catered to all, so I could find more opportunities that are related to my major, but also kind of outside that field, so I can broaden that scope.
I would definitely, it's kind of hard because I could see the benefit of both being specifically tailored to a specific major. Then you're conversing with people that know that the information, the technology and the information that I'm learning, they know exactly that they use those same resources in their company. But then also if it's more for generalized, like a general career fair, then I could talk to people and they could say, we do offer this major, or we do offer internships for this major. And sometimes I might overlook a company because they don't have a lot of positions in my major, but then at a general career fair, then they could be like, oh, we actually do. So I might overlook it. So I do see the benefit of both.
Kind of piggybacking off what Ian said, I definitely said benefit in both. With a marketing major or marketing career, which is hopefully the field I'm going to be going into, I know that a lot of different industries can use that. So a general job fair would definitely be beneficial in that fact. For some of the more narrowed down industries, I know that it would definitely be useful to have a career fair just tailored to mental health care, healthcare in general. Not so much all the employers in one place, but maybe different places on campus. So something like that.
Right. I'm also thinking of things like, I know that like we in career development try to communicate with you all like on a somewhat regular basis, but I would love to know kind of the student insight on like what is too much communication or what's too little communication. Like where is that kind of like sweet spot to where you're like, okay, like this is relevant information. I'll definitely, take that with will, and what's like, okay, I need y'all to stop emailing me or like texting me or whatever way we're communicating, because I know it can be, a lot coming in at the same time for y'all.
Too much definitely would be like basically having a subscription to that company's like email list. and them emailing like constantly every week or every other day. I think a sweet spot would be maybe like possibly like if they have a text message service or like an email set up maybe like once a month talking about like the job opportunities that are available for that month. I think that would be a sweet spot for me.
I definitely agree with what Tara said about how once a month would be a good amount of time. I've had experience where I will get an automated like text message about different opportunities or like following up again and again multiple times in a day. And that can be very overwhelming with everything going on. So definitely taking the time just to like, I would say a couple of weeks to a month of a time just to like give students as well a break to think about the offer and the opportunity and then following up so you can keep up the interest.
Yeah, I would definitely agree. Like once or twice a month, you send out a newsletter just offering the different types of internship opportunities you offer. And during the internship process, like I mentioned earlier, if there's one main source of contact, then there's no need to like continuously emailing the person. The person could just email that one main source of contact. And if there's any confusion, then that person can always reach out to me, or I could always reach out to that person. So there's no need of like 20 emails or 20 text messages, things like that.
I know I get hundreds of emails a week from potential employers and things like that, sometimes 2 a day. I think weekly is definitely the way I would go, because I know that 2 weeks doesn't seem like a long time, but when you're looking for a job, it's definitely a long time. So I'm always looking for opportunities and different routes to go. So I think weekly would be great, as long as it doesn't go to my spam file.
Definitely want to avoid that spam folder. While people are maybe thinking of wrapping up questions, I would love to bring attention to Valerie's thing in the chat for our employers for our next and final session for Recruit XU. We have Xavier, alum Amari Aarons, coming to speak about the best practices on recruiting and retaining diverse talent, and she included a registration link there. So definitely check that out. As you can see with our students, it's definitely a value for a lot of them. So definitely something I would recommend checking out and registering if you have the time next week. Just a question pop up. I want to make sure I get all of it. So typically hire new team members into an entry-level position, which supports our clients with their use of our software, but also has potential to grow into consulting, training, account management roles, and among others. So the root question is, what do you think is the best way to market opportunities for growing and developing a role?
I think the best way to market to students for that type of opportunity, because I feel like as a college student, I've been prepped to know that once I graduate, I probably might have to go to an entry level position to work my way up from a company. So I think like marketing it and letting people like them know like you don't necessarily have to market it a specific way, but just say that it's an entry level position. You have great opportunity to grow, and putting emphasis on that opportunity to grow would catch my eye.
When looking for positions, seeing that opportunity to grow always does catch my eye, and it kind of piques my interest more in the company and that position. So I would say putting that information kind of more in the front, because then you're being pretty transparent, like this is basic, it's opening, that's it. But you do have that opportunity to rise up and grow. And a lot of students will look for that, since, as Tara mentioned, we're kind of expected. We know that when we come into the workforce, we're going to have to be looking for an entry level position or something kind of low like that.
Yeah, like what they both mentioned, just making sure it's at the top of the job description, just say you have the opportunity to grow, but then also just maintaining a strong communication with the interns and also with people that are potentially interning at the place that you work at. Just saying, if you do perform at the best that you can, there are ways that you could grow and change your career within the company. And that's something that I look at really, because I'm not really just specifically looking at one type of job description. I'm really looking at does it incorporate some of the skills that I've learned, and is there room to grow more skill sets?
I think the best way to market this to students, like Tara said, we all know or have an idea that we're probably going to be getting an entry level position. I know that when I look at a job posting, I try to look for some of those, key phrases or time periods. The ability to move to a different department in 3 months, 6 months. Just something specific to let somebody know that it is an entry level position, but you have so much potential to grow into different fields depending on your skills and depending on where you'd like to go.
Awesome. So we're just at about 1 o'clock, and I know people have things they need to do, but I just wanted to take again another brief moment to thank our panelists so much. So thank you, Tara, Maddie, Ian, and Matt for your time, especially over the fall break. So I really appreciate y'all being here. As we mentioned, this recording will be sent out to our employers afterwards, so we'll send that out to you all hopefully later this afternoon. But if there are no other, last minute questions, I think panelists hang on for a few more minutes in case anything comes in. But to everyone that attended, thank you so much for your time and have a great rest of your afternoon.